sometimes what happens is that people are very nervous and very anxious about making that leap and making that jump. It can be scary, it can be overwhelming, it's something they've never done before, and even though they want it, it's very hard to be able to do it. So for instance, someone might want to lose weight and have that end goal of losing weight, but to actually go through the hard process of getting there is very difficult and challenging. So if you could take that nervousness and put it on something that will allow you to get out of it, it's safe. So you can't really dispute. If someone says, I don't think she's pretty, then you're going to let her get out. You're going to let him get out of it because you can't push him, right? So a lot of times people will put it on something that is indisputable. It's not necessarily really the core issue, but it allows them to escape their nerves and get out of the situation. They stand back and talk it out and realize that it's not necessarily that thing, but it's that they're really anxious, they're really nervous. They'll step back and they'll say, that really wasn't the real issue, but I'm just feeling very, very nervous. And as well as Raymond said, it could remind them of a parent or a teacher or someone that they had a certain impression of that might have gotten nervous or scared, so they want to, just get out.
But again, they'd have to talk it out with somebody who can put them straight. This is something so important. People on their own, not to rely on their own judgment a lot of times. Even they might be older, experienced. I went so many times already. Nobody's said, I know it all, but the person, the person cannot always see, understand his own emotions and the exact way from things. Thank you.
I just want to ask, I don't know how Shadchanim deal with it. How do you know when something really is an issue and something is just being kind of thrown up as, because they're commitment phobic, or how do you distinguish something that somebody brings up that's a red flag or something that's or that they need to be a push? Some people need that push, and some people it might be a real red flag. Like, I don't know how you even deal with that. I recently spoke to Rabbi David Fox in L.A., who deals a lot with Baalei Teshuva, and he says some of the really fresh Baalei Teshuva come in, and their mentors are telling them, just get married, and they're so idealistic that they figure, oh, he's now from and she's now from, so just put them together. And sometimes people aren't trusting their instincts about personality or looks or whatever it is, basic attraction. And sometimes that's a real problem because, I don't know, it's complex, and it's not an easy answer.
I don't want to take over that. I'll say what I think. I think anybody can talk up and what they want to say. I don't want to take over. But what I say to what you're saying is that, again, the person you're speaking to has to be a chacham and speak it out and discuss it. And of course, make sure they're going out enough times to really understand but if I wouldn't have gotten this back from my sister-in-law about Shenka and the whole thing, I wouldn't have pushed them to get married. I mean, you can't. Chazal tells if you don't like the way a woman looks, you're not supposed to get married to her because it's not fair to her. I mean, you're always going to look down at her and always going to be unhappy. And so naturally, it's something that you feel is going to. When to me personally, Allah Bochum talked to me about the Shidduchim, something that is significant, that I tell him, you shouldn't go with it. Something that's a little bit, she doesn't look exactly, okay, a girl mentioned me about a boy, it doesn't look so good, but everything's fine. Usually, after you marry somebody, all of a sudden, it's just like some people, they ask about a name for a child that's born. And the parents want to give him this name, and they can't stand the name. But she said, I can't take that name. I guarantee you, in 3 days, you'll love the name. You'll call the child that name. You'll see, all of a sudden, so cute, so wonderful. He says, you have that, whatever feeling you have in the background of somebody with that name, whatever it is, but your child will be that name. And it always works, unless they test the name for some reason, whatever it is. The same thing, if we get married to somebody, after a while, you get to like him. But something that's really something that's outstanding, it's terrible. I mean, naturally, you're not going to push him to do, but if something that's not that significant, you shouldn't stay the Shidduch. I don't want to be the only saying that. I wouldn't say something.
I think also when you're talking about something like looks, then it makes a lot of sense. Mrs. Burnham, was saying before that that's very likely that it's just masking some kind of anxiety or nervous. If you're saying that everything else, the midos are very attractive to you, the personality, and you have beautiful conversations. So it's unlikely that there's something there. But something that would raise a red flag would be a little more scary. You see, the person is, I don't know, has like a mean streak to them, or is miserly or something like that. And that's something that would be, to me, I would back off much more from. I have a story similar to what Rebbetzin was saying. Not with me personally, a friend of mine, I happened to be out of town with her, and her son had begun dating. And so this woman, we had to be out of town together for some reason. She of course had not met the girl. The boy called her and he said, you know, everything went beautiful, but the looks bother me. So she encouraged him, no, go out again. And when she hung up the phone from him, she said, she's probably gorgeous, I know my son. And she encouraged him to go out again. 2-3 times they went out, and he kept saying, she's wonderful, I admire her, but the looks bother me. So by then the mother was sure that she kept checking, of course, that she's a wonderful girl, and her son, for some reason, has cold feet. In the end, they got engaged, and I had occasion to go and meet them, and I just had to turn away. I was going to laugh. She looked exactly like his mother. She's a beautiful girl with a big smile. So I was thinking how nice that she had that relationship with her son, and she encouraged him, and she's a wonderful girl, and they all get along. There was something there, though.
I think it's also important sometimes not to focus on what people are saying but what they're not saying, and read between the lines, because often when people call me and I listen to them talking, I'm trying to listen between the lines and not what they're saying, because they often don't know how to give it over, or they don't really want to share what's really bothering them because they're embarrassed, they think it's maybe silly or superficial. So trying to hear in between the lines, I think, is very helpful.
Yeah, so I'd like to add to this, because I had a very interesting experience of a certain Shidduch, very fine young lady, who went out with a very fine young man, and she was the fellow had very good midos, very, very talented, from a very fine mishpacha, but the girl's predisposition was, I always envisaged a boy with blue eyes, or with this type of tzura. And so I explained to this young lady, I said, look, this is a quality boy from a quality family, and being concerned about the color of the eyes and certain other things, the things that you should really make a list of, the things that you really, really are must have in a shidduch, and the things that are frosting on the cake, so to speak, but that you could get used to. And eventually they got married. They're very, very happy with beautiful children, kinahara. And sometimes the boy or the girl's predisposition of what they're looking for, that's stuck in their head, very often gets in the way. And for the wrong reason. Sometimes for the right reason, but very often for the wrong reason. And the ikar and most important advice you can give is to have the boy or the girl talk with someone who is a professional, someone who's a rav, someone who really has the experience to say, you know, marriage is not for a year or 5 years, it's for a long period of time. And it's very hard to see, to see in the distance. How will you be in 10 years? Will you be happy? In 20 years, in 30 years? How will you be able to raise a family? What type of midos? What type of chesed? What type of family? Those are the important things, because the appearances, the looks, the youthfulness, really, really is very nice to begin with, but then it eventually fades, and then you have a person, a boy and a girl, and the way they interact and how they relate to each other.
I think what you're saying has a lot of value, but I find, as assistant director of the Rebbetzins program, the biggest hurdle that I had in trying to get singles to come together is this business of pictures. I am like, I hate the idea of pictures. I had Baruch Hashem children married. I myself never looked at any pictures of any girls that my boys went out with. I wouldn't let them look at any pictures. I don't know what they did in the dorm, but I mean, I think that if you're going by a picture, they're already starting off on the wrong foot. They're not giving a person a chance. They're going by a picture.
I agree. You've got to learn about someone from the inside out. It really is that important. But there has to be a chemistry. And the people will know. Once they go out, they'll know if there's chemistry. They'll know. But it is very hard. I'm right now in the middle of working on a Shidduch, which is because I'm a Rov in an out-of-town community, and I have someone who is not completely from, but he's very, very traditional. So he goes to a shul every Shabbos, and he keeps a kosher kitchen, and he's got a wonderful job, and he's got a wonderful, wonderful character. And he wants a girl who will hold traditional values, but he's not 100% from. And so he's looking for something that really exists, someone who has good midos, a good traditional from background, but someone who he would want to do things that a from girl would ordinarily not want to do, whether or not to cover her hair or things of that nature. And it's very, very difficult for young people because everyone is so different. Because we think there's a boy and there's a girl. It's absolutely outrageous. There's so many facets in every single shidduch. And to find the right shidduch for the right person is min hashamayim. I mean, it is literally kosher k'kriyas yamsuf.
I would like to share a story. A friend of mine had a son that was on the market, as they say, and I had called about a girl that I knew quite well, discussed all the details, and I was sure she was going to say yes to have her son meet this girl. All of a sudden she goes, "Oh, I forgot the most important thing. Is she blonde?" I said, "Oh, actually, she has black hair. Forget it. My son will only go out with blonde girls." To be very honest, in my book I wrote him off. Because I said if that's how you're judging the girl before you even met her, I don't want to deal with the shidduch for this boy. I don't feel it's right. And I dropped it. A few months later, I hear this boy is engaged. I just wanted to know to whom. I wanted to see this girl. We won't talk about the dark complexion that obviously does not come with blonde hair. This girl was as dark as possible. Her complexion was dark. Her hair was jet black. And I just wanted to know, what happened? What happened was very simple. Hashem made the shidduch. He was doing Bikur Cholim in the hospital. This girl was sitting with her best friend who was a sick patient. And he had come over to offer Kiddush for the patient. They were doing a little bit of talking. And all of a sudden he started seeing there were people with non-blonde hair that happened to be wonderful people. And he got engaged. I also do not believe in pictures, but I do want to go back to one of the comments or questions that were asked about the red flags. This is a little bit different, and it really is not even to do with looks, but sometimes when I've had people telling me they're really not sure, they've gone out quite a number of times, they're very hesitant, is this the right one for me or not? One suggestion that I've given that I feel really, really works to judge, do you really like this person as a person, is subconsciously, do you think about this person? And what I mean by that is, I'll suggest to whoever's asking the question, during the day, something cute happened, or you saw something you really liked, do you in your mind think, "Ooh, I'd like to share that with him or with her. He'd really appreciate hearing about this incident that happened." If in your subconscious conscience you're thinking of things to share with this person that you're dating, that means that you really do like him. If in your mind you wouldn't want to share these interesting things with him, maybe he really is not for you. And I'd like to use that a little bit for people judging, do they really like this person or not when they're hesitant. And for quite a few people that I've suggested this, it either pushed them forward or they said, "You know what, I really don't ever think about him except for when I'm on a date." And that bothered me, in which if they're not thinking about him at other times, there's a little bit of a problem. And it's just a suggestion of how to judge.
That's a great measuring stick. Because you're talking about somebody that people that went out quite a few times already.
People that have met more than 2 times, 3 times.
Because you have to have some relationship to use that measuring stick. That's
You know, I know in my own relationship, sometimes something will happen during the day, oh, I must remember to tell my husband about it during supper. Now, obviously, I'm married, so I have who to share it with. When you are meeting someone and you're trying to decide, do I want to spend the rest of my life with him, you want to be able to share things that you enjoyed, or if something bothered you, do you want to get his opinion on it or her opinion? It's just, to me, it's a good measuring tool. And I've used it with younger people, I've used it with older people, and I really feel that it helps.
I say it a little bit differently when I'm speaking, similar, but a little bit differently. So usually it works a little further on in dating, let's say 7 to 10 dates. I said, you don't have to marry him. It's really okay. I have a great girl for him, a really great girl. And if I just want to know, if I told you that he was engaged to your very, very close friend, would you even care? Would it bother you? She, no, don't tell him, don't tell him, yeah, wait. You know, oh, maybe you like him, you know. And then sure.
I should tell you, when you said the thing about the boy who wanted a blonde, I once spoke to Freddie Friedman, the Lakewood shochet.
Sure.
And he told me a story where someone called and the mother said, it has to be a blonde. Moshe only wants a blonde. And Freddie said, I thought your son's name was Ellie. She said, yes, it is. My husband is Moshe.
I'd be worried.
Mrs. Burnham, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How do you advise singles who have questions, who have doubts when they're dating?
Specific doubts in general.
In general, if they have doubts, they're
Okay, so firstly, I try to get a little bit of background, tell me a little bit about yourself, your family, where you're coming from, what you're doing, a little bit of your dating history, a little bit of his background, just to kind of paint just the background setting a little bit. And then I try to, then I want to hear the doubts. And then I ask them for examples. Give me an example. So you think that he is, very ahead of you and it's making you nervous. He's liking you too much and you're getting so nervous. Leave me alone, I'm feeling choked. Give me an example. What happened? So sometimes when I hear that example, I'll say, that's not really what happened. Because she gave me the example, I could say, well, is what really happened X or was really happened Y? Oh yeah, maybe you're right, yeah. So we'll go through each piece. And obviously I'm looking for red flags. If I think that something is really unhealthy, I don't like his mitos. Why don't you like his mitos? Well, he does. Is he nice to you? He's very nice to me. But give me an example. Every time he talks about people, he's always putting them down. That's a big red flag to me. Because the girl who's dating him, when she is his wife, she is next. And I will say, you need to drop this. This is not healthy. So I'm very quick to, if I see serious red flags, I'm very quick to advise people to move away. But if I see really core, good mitos, connection, respect, and then I really try to encourage. I don't push, but I really try to encourage heavily because I think that the core of the relationship is so much more than the externals that we get caught up in terms of pictures and all that kind of thing. So I think typically that's how I do it.
I was also. I'm sorry.
I wanted to change the topic to something else, so please.
Something else, I don't should do it. This one, but there's things of a machloikas, a big difference of opinion, if before you propose and accept the proposition, there has to be a feeling to the other person. Is seichel enough, pencil and paper, the person is everything that you want, midas and skofis and everything, but there's no feeling. Should you get engaged under such circumstances? There's a difference of opinion, even from Gedolim, very big people about that. So my personal, what I advise is that the people don't have to be madly in love with each other. People have such ideas sometimes, they hear what they're reading, what they're seeing. But what my gather is of the amount, there has to be feeling that you are enjoying the person's company when you're with them and you look forward to seeing them. If any girl or boy tells me that they don't look forward to seeing them and they're not enjoying their company, even though everything's fine, wonderful, then I tell them they should not get engaged. If they went out many times, they haven't made any relationship But there's no feeling whatsoever. Other people say, "It'll come afterwards." You get married, and since there's such a good relationship, and she respects the other person and for what they are, the feeling will come afterwards. And I think that's a big chance to take. I guess they'll never get divorced, probably under those circumstances, but to have a real happy marriage, they might not have. So I'm just bringing this up. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on it, but this is a very common type of thing that you come up with when you deal with Shidduchim, this type of feeling. I respect the person, everything is wonderful, but I have no feeling for the person at the point. No negative states, naturally not. There's nothing negative, there's no real feeling of enjoying the person's company and seeing them forward to see them.
So
Yeah, I'd like to ask the Rebbe a question. You may remember, I remember my days in Yeshiva Torah Das, where in the Beis Medrash there was always a joke. And the joke was, why is it that we always learn Gemara Gittin before the Gemara Kedushin? And the answer is, you should always have the refuah before the Makkah. And that's the joke. But the truth of the matter is, it might be healthy to look at Shidduchim from the other way around. I'd like to ask the Rav, based on his experience, what has been the basis of Gittin that had to go through, which could not be resolved, and therefore from that extrapolate the problems that men should look for in order to avoid a bad shidduch. What in your experience? And I know what I've seen many experiences of Gittin, but from the New York perspective, because I'm from Connecticut, what has been the basis for irreversible breakdown of marriage which had to result in a get?
Well, I haven't had that much experience with Gittin. It's something like years ago, the Alter Rabbik was saying that boy and girl should not get engaged unless they see themselves date for 10 times. Satmar Rebbe went out of his mind, Hasidim, they say, you don't see at all, you just make a Shidduch. So he was very against Rabbik's proposition of 10 times. So the Shulchan went back and forth, and Rabbik sent him a shliach, you make the Kedushin, I write the Gittin.
That's right.
So maybe you get married, 1, 2, 3, and Gittin, there's 2 different experiences. But some of the boys ask me, should they read these books that are written about marriage to Chassanim and the young and the women? Should they read the books written all the time, more and more books about how to have a happy marriage and so on? So I tell them that those yeshivas who learn Musar don't have to read those books, because the main ingredient to have a happy marriage is midas tovus. If you have midas tovus, salonis, and you have chesed, and you have chesed and understanding and all the good midas, then that's what all these books are all about. Really, the bottom of the line is midas tovus. And if you are a Baal Musa and you're working in Musa, a Bochum came to me a few days before his chassan and said, give me an eitzah how you should have a happy marriage. I said, now you come. So the person came, Erev Kippur, how can I have a good year? He said, he said, but I can work, and Erev Kippur, you come to how to have a good year. Now you come to us. I said, if you worked on Musa your whole life and you're working for it, then okay. Now right for the chassan, how do you have a good marriage? Now you have one hocus pocus, whatever it is. So it's something that I think that the main problem of people getting divorced, of course, unless there's certain terrible circumstances, I'm not talking about you found out that the husband is some galagana, but I'm talking about something, it's midas tovus, people being able to get along and to swallow and to have savronis and to be able to see the good in the other person. It's midas tovus, and otherwise people just can't get along because they're not, one or both are not able to give in, and they're not willing to be civil and to overlook and so on. So I mean I think that's the mocker, the source of all, unless special circumstances, is people don't have their midas. If they have midas tovus, then they have a happy marriage.
I want to move
more towards looking for a spouse to something that to me is very, very important, being open-minded. You know, sometimes we think we know what we want, we think we know what's good for us, we think we have everything under control, under our belt, and we know exactly what we want. I'm not even discussing things like looks, because that's superficial. But sometimes we need to be a little more open-minded, because maybe Hashem has something else in mind for us, and it might not be someone that's a lawyer, even though to us that sounds very attractive. Maybe it's someone that maybe is younger than us, where normally I want someone older than me to look up to. And sometimes the Shidduchim are not exactly what we had in mind. And when we do hear of something, of, you know, a possibility of a Shidduch, sometimes we have to say, let me give it a try. If obviously everything else sounds good about him, his midos sounds good and things like that, and be a little more open-minded that maybe Hashem has something else in mind for us than what we were really thinking of.